And I just watched her go from this vivacious, amazing person to just a shell of herself because of medication and surgery. When you have enough body fat and you have sunlight and you have minerals and water, you can fast indefinitely. I mean, the record, and this was an incredibly obese man, but he fasted for over a year. What I realized was, okay, I had these deficiencies, but I wasn't unique in that. Anyone would have it. If I had all those things, I was doing all those things, eating organic, etc., really being mindful. Even at 25, man, I had already pulled out toxic sugars from my home, all sorts of stuff. And this was 10 years ago. I remember thinking, like, come on. Like, until I did this test, I'd spent 15 grand on other tests. Lots of improvement, but nothing moved the needle more than maybe like 10%.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not good enough. Again, back to the energy thing. I was thinking, how am I going to write books? How am I going to live a great life? How am I going to achieve a lot of the goals I have a family, all these things, if I don't have the energy, you know? So I realized that absorption was really, really key. That was an immediate thought. But when I had that amazing consultation, I realized that, you know, he was saying things to me like, Barton, I imagine you haven't remembered your dreams in a while. I'm going, how do you know that? And he did that 8 or 10 times. And now in consultations, all of our nutritionists that take calls for us, they don't just say things. They actually listen. They ask questions like these, and they give people these discoveries and realizations. So it's really a new lens that you get when you go through a consultation. So it's an important part of what we do. I hopefully will be able to continue to offer that as we grow more and more as a company. But right now we have soon we'll have 6 nutritionists doing that for us. I think it's the most valuable test when interpreted well.
Yeah.
There's just a lot to it.
The one thing I want to jump in and say is that I had a consultation with one of your practitioners, and it was like this slow, methodical process. And I know we're not able to give medical advice, and of course I have to say that, like, we're not giving medical advice, but we are talking about wellness and health best practices. And I always, whenever I take advice from someone in health, I always ask myself on a gut level, would I want the life or would I want the way of being of the person I'm receiving advice from? And that's definitely the case for you. It's definitely the case from what I've seen with your company and working with the practitioner. And it begs this deep question for me. I'm like, if people that are in great health are giving health advice, not medical advice, but health advice, that for me is like one of the biggest report cards for me to actually trust and see if what they're doing for themselves and what they're sharing with me will actually move my needle and actually help me out in life. So he went actually to like the emotional side of what was being reflected by your mineral deficiencies. That's interesting he started there.
When you have magnesium deficiency, you don't remember your dreams. You don't make enough melatonin. You don't go deeply enough. And people that are taking melatonin or taking CBD or smoking weed to go to sleep, all of those are worse options. And ultimately, if you have a magnesium deficiency, you probably don't need those. And here's the thing. The whole absorption thing that I realized, if you have a deficiency, you need a really high level of absorption to reverse that deficiency. You need to be, doing it, daily and taking it in, but you also need the tool of better absorption than what I could find. One of the reasons why I wanted to keep this test and bring this test and make it more packageable and doable at home. So we have videos and we've taken it kind of out of the dark ages. And luckily, a couple things. I had entrepreneurs in my family that had worked in compounding pharmacies, and my uncle had a compounding pharmacy, and I'd seen he and my first cousin take that and do a lot of novel, innovative things. My whole side of that family is really good at chemistry and had an affinity, and plus just my affinity for chemistry and just all the the thermodynamics and all the different things. I get why I see this so clearly, because I have this lens of athlete and understanding what's required. I was seeing people that were 50s, 60s or so, and seeing they had these issues. And then I had this lens of absorption and knowing you take an industrial process and you improve that process with things like nanotechnology, then you get a better output so that the process does the work for you when the leaky gut, which all of us have to some extent. It seems like if you're doing everything well, but you have a lot of stress in your life, that can cause leaky gut. So relying on our digestive system was just not going to cut it, because I was having those issues in my 20s and I was doing things really well. So the chances that someone would be able to do that better than me at any age really was just low, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good enough for me. I knew I needed it. If I was going to develop something, I'd have to have the scale of the company to get the products I needed. About this time, I'm helping my mom with her health too, and she was in good health and she was in her 60s. And I just watched her go from this vivacious, amazing person to just a shell of herself because of medication and surgery. I still to this day don't think that she had much wrong with her except like calcium imbalance. She had heel spurs and things like that. So I get to this point where I figured out, okay, so there's a few different issues that we have, and that's particle size and stability. I just realized pretty quickly, like, we need to be able to get it into the red blood cell and have that just transport around the body. How do we do that without digestion, really? What I was thinking was, if someone didn't have a stomach, how would they do this? And that is what we offer today. So we have some secret sauce in our process, and we just do minerals right now. Maybe at some point we'll do vitamins, but minerals I realized were more important. I did a 11-day fast to heal an injury. Just spur of the moment, I pulled a hamstring out sprinting at Zilker here in Austin. And I went and sat in cold water that evening. So I couldn't bend my knee the next morning. And I remember thinking, that plus this hamstring, it's going to be a nagging injury. So I did a 3-day fast. I had a big podcast with Ben Greenfield on like 2 days in. I was like, I'll be fasted for that. That'll be good. More clarity. It's great. And I just kept going after that. And I wanted to get to 5. So I'm going to teach a course on how to do that, because I figured out how to do that without pain. But in terms of how vital minerals are, when you have enough body fat and you have sunlight and you have minerals and water, you can fast indefinitely. I mean, the record, and this was an incredibly obese man, but he fasted for over a year.
Wow. Okay. Don't do that, you guys.
No, guys. Yeah. Like,
we're not
that was
saying...
under supervision for sure.
Yeah.
Again, like, this is just, a story. I mean, it's true. You can look it up in like a second, but it's hard to believe. And the skin was not sagging. Like, the body really reconsumed itself. You need minerals to do that well. They activate the whole enzymatic process. But when you look at minerals under a microscope, what you see really is like rock and metal fragment. Understanding all of this, I went, well, okay. So even if we have solutions, we need to be able, for people to really understand the value of it, they need to be able to look at their levels and see them move from test to test too. And if they do that, they'll believe in the validity of our products, I think, and they'll be feeling better. But sometimes, some people need to see it on the chart too, and you need that map continually, right? Because it changes. So that's kind of the thought, the philosophy, the why.